Welcome to another MoonLore. Hi, Jenny. I see you have a halo Leo mane behind you. It's lovely.
Thanks, Laurie. It is kind of like a mane, isn't it?
It does. It looks like,
Yeah.
it looks like the sun is just rising behind you as I've got Jupiter and Saturn and whoever else rising behind me. So we are surrounded by all the planets, and we're here to talk about the Scorpio new moon, which is occurring on November 6th. Is that right?
November 4th. It's coming in hot. Yeah.
November 4th. Do you have the time?
Yes, 5:14 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about before we jump into how this is going to impact people in their individual lives, first we want to just touch on the cycles themselves. The lunar cycle is a 28-day cycle, basically 27 point something day cycle from one new moon to the next new moon. And the new moons occur when the sun and the moon are in the same position. It's totally dark at night. We're in the darkest point of the moon, and then we come to that new moon. At the new moon, the idea is that this is the time that we plant a seed. And a week after the new moon, we come to the first quarter phase of the moon, which is the time that we want to think about taking an action to help that seed continue on its path. And then a week after that, we come to the full moon, which is when the sun and moon are in opposite positions from our perspective here on Earth. And that's when the illumination of the seed, when we're thinking in this very small 28-day cycle, that's the illumination, 2 weeks after we plant the seed. And then the next week, we come to the last quarter phase where we start to release what's been growing in order to prepare for the next new moon. Now, there's a larger cycle as well. Do you want to explain the larger cycle?
Sure. I liked how you explained the shorter cycle. So the larger cycle just looks at things in terms of a year. And what we will look forward to is the full moon that's going to occur in Scorpio in about 6 months' time. So that just gives you a longer period to think about. That's kind of all there is to say about that.
So the moon, the seed that we plant now in the bigger cycle will be illuminated in 6 months?
Yeah. Yep,
okay.
That sounds good. Yep.
Okay, great. And do you off the top of your head know that 6 month date?
I do. So that'll be May 16th. And it will actually be 25 degrees of Scorpio. So it'll be further along in Scorpio at that time. But and the shorter cycle is November 19th. We're looking at the full moon in Taurus. That's going to be 2 weeks away. And I will add, because it's my job to add, that this is an eclipse cycle. On November 19th, we have a full lunar eclipse. And then on May 16th, in the 6 month cycle, we will have a lunar eclipse as well. So just a little, for those of you eclipse geeks out there, just so you know that that's part of this cycle. So
I personally don't do a whole lot with eclipses. You know that, Jenny. I think of them as very powerful points when there is an eclipse happening. I definitely pay attention to the point at which that's happening and try to think that through. But there's a lot of people who work really extensively with eclipses. So for those of you that are really interested in digging into that, I'm sure you can find other information about that. And I would encourage you, any of you that are really working with these cycles, get these dates on the calendar. Put that 6 month from now date on your calendar and consider it when you think about the seed that you're planting now. Get that on your calendar. And with this, find Astrolore or I don't know if you have it on your website as well, but I do provide a really simple new moon ritual that you can do. You can make up your own ritual. There's a million different ways that you can do rituals, but be sure to read about that, think about that. Any kind of ritual you can do will help solidify and put more power into the metaphorical seed that you're planting.
Yeah. And I would just add, I use the eclipses a little bit. I just think what Laurie said, actually, just thinking about that as an extra powerful point when it is an eclipse. And I said to Laurie before the start, I tend to think of it as it kind of emphasizes doors closing a little bit rather than what phase or the cycle. It's like closing out where we're at before that. And then, so just a little bit of that focus. The other thing I want to add is it depends on if it falls in a really sensitive point in your personal chart, your natal chart, for which you should come and see Laurie or myself for a consultation, that's when you can really use those power of the eclipses. Like if there's an eclipse falling on your moon or your ascendant or something like that, like those are extra important times to tune into. So, and I know that you and I both really like natal astrology more so and care about how these impact each of you as individuals, and kind of feel like that's the important part of all of this. So,
right.
Yeah.
When I prepare for consultations, I always take note of the upcoming new moons, all of them. And if there are specific ones that are tied right into the natal chart, I always make sure people really are aware of that. So yeah, I think that's an important piece. Thanks for bringing that up, Jennie. Okay, you want to talk about Scorpio? This is a Scorpio new moon, so it's time to talk about Scorpio. So let's get deep here.
Well, you said it. That's what Scorpio's dealing with. Yeah, Scorpio's definitely, it's time. I keep thinking about it's time to peek under the hood, make sure the engine's running well. And if it's not, digging a little deeper to understand what's going on. It's definitely an indication to, just take it a little further than you might normally. Take a little more time to yourself to peek at the underpinnings of what's happening for you in your life right now.
Yeah, Scorpio is the fixed water sign. It's a very powerful sign. It's the feminine fixed water sign. Scorpio, one thing that we were talking about before we got on was just you think of the symbols for Scorpio, and for some reason the scorpion itself is what people generally think of, and the scorpion that's gonna kill you and sting you to death. Stephen Forrest talks about the scorpion as, when he's talking about Scorpio, he talks about someone waking up in their sleeping bag and they open their eyes and they see this scorpion looking at them. And in that moment, the depth that you immediately feel, that life and death understanding that comes over you when you're in that kind of a situation. So we can think about the scorpion. We can think also, my favorite one to really think about is the phoenix. And the symbol of the phoenix, you really think of that diving down into the darkest depths and coming out as that beautiful mythical bird. But in order to become that beautiful mythical bird, that deep dive into darkness has to occur. Mm-hmm. And then the other two symbols that I think about with Scorpio is the snake that sheds its skin and the spider that jumps off into space with that tiny little thread that is going to uphold it. Scorpio really does bring us to the deepest, darkest places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. That was great. I was thinking about all the symbols that you brought up. And I think that another, if you think about the archetypes of Scorpio too, that can help understand it. The archetypes are like the psychologist, the detective, the shaman, the sorcerer, or the catalyst. So these are pretty deep, the detective rooting around finding clues, sniffing out clues that nobody else can tune into, or the psychologist helping get you on a therapeutic route, to try to figure out what's going on with you. I mean, all of these things have the looking at the kind of more mystical or mysterious or darker sides of things, and then kind of bringing them out to the light for other people to see. It's sort of a and Noel Till talks about the Scorpio, someone with the Scorpio moon, as being the need to be in control. So there's these things about control, and also power. There's a need to be seen as significant and deep and reliable, all of those components. And then when it's in a balanced state, it's somebody who's really invested in making an impact on things.
The catalyst. I love the idea of the catalyst. Yeah. But, in order to be a catalyst, you have to have done the work of looking and seeing what is under the surface and then bringing it to light. All the signs have a more challenging and a more positive side to them. I've always thought of Scorpio as having more of an extreme in that. The dark side is so dark. And the more positive side isn't light and airy and fluffy, but it is empowered. It's that depth of darkness on one side and that incredible empowerment and ability to change the world with that empowerment. It's a powerful sign. Well, we use that word a lot.
It's a great keyword.
Right.
So should we take a look at this chart?
Yeah, let's look at this chart.
Okay. So again, this is set for Eastern time. So here we are. So we see the sun and the moon together at 12 degrees of Scorpio, not too far from Mars in Scorpio. And look at that opposition to Uranus. That's a very tight opposition. Same 12 degrees of Taurus.
It is very tight opposition. So just that in itself, to me, that just screams, wake up to what you need to be digging into.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple and straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, with Uranus in the mix, it's like sudden change, unpredictability, wake up to things that need your attention right now that are going to shift whether you like it or not, right? It's going to move. So your choice here is making that decision. What do I need to surrender to that I have no control over? What things do I have control over that I need to look deeper and work on? I mean, that's really the primal question here.
And what am I going to do with that incredible empowerment that is going to come out of that work? How am I going to be a catalyst for good in the world with that work that I'm doing?
Yeah. And, we've talked a lot about Uranus and Taurus, but this is sort of the upset of some of our most stable systems. And we've certainly seen that with the pandemic. There's these conversations about the supply chain on, and there's some big shifts going on, and that Uranus symbol kind of shows that. Taurus is normally a very stable sign, so having Uranus and Taurus is really kind of breaking that. It's kind of like an earthquake. It'd be a shorthand to think about it. So in opposition to this new moon cycle, those are the topics that are on the table.
Right. And we've got, the underlying big transit of 2021, the square between Uranus and Saturn. So this new moon is kind of tangling in with that larger cultural, global discord that's going on in the world. So it's tangled up in there, but it's clearly a lot closer. Its entanglement is with Uranus a lot more than with Saturn. I mean, they're both involved, but just by degree, it is so close with that Uranus.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we're seeing, because Saturn's in Aquarius, which is a fixed sign. I mean, these are all fixed signs, Uranus and Taurus, and then now this new moon in Scorpio. I mean, these are fixed signs, so we're used to them being very stable and reliable and keeping the status quo and like staying. And what we're really seeing in 2021 and 2022 is the kind of the breaking apart of some of those stable things we're used to, in the name of necessary change. That's sort of the whole piece that we're looking at. And when we see these new moons and Mars kind of in the mix, here's a little bit out of order, but it's there. It was there not long ago.
Yeah.
That really adds some heat to it. So these are just the topics that we are confronting right now. The new moon brings them right down to earth to each of us to contend with in our daily lives.
We have a little bit of a relief here, or
Yay.
I don't know if relief is the right word to use, but that trining Neptune gives it a little softer edge. Or allows us to use our imagination or a spiritual path maybe to make sense of this. Yeah. So I like seeing that. I'm happy to see that.
Yeah. I mean, that brings in those components of forgiveness and compassion.
Yes.
Bigger,
thank you.
It's just bigger picture stuff that can really help ground you when you're struggling with the day-to-day. It can really help provide a sense of relief. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I think, in the middle of this intensity, go take a nap. There's something about Neptune and Pisces that often makes me feel like, put on some beautiful soothing music and take a friggin' nap. You might need it in the midst of all of this intensity. And, Neptune just allows that kind of boundaryless state.
Yeah. Or thinking it's okay to put on the rosy colored glasses for a few minutes just to get a break, or for an evening out with friends over a glass of wine.
Not too many glasses of wine, but a glass of wine would be good. Some nice music, read some poetry with your partner, whatever. Spend some time on your meditation cushion, whatever it is that kind of allows you a little more space for your soul, I guess. It's one way to think about it. Okay.
That gives you the break that you need to have to go back and do the harder work, the introspection of Scorpio. So, so you want to talk about how this lands in everybody's charts?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Okay.
Why don't you start with the Aries rising, and we'll take turns. I think we both have sort of played with these ideas as we've been preparing to talk today. And we have very different perspectives. So let's go at it.
Well, okay, that sounds good. So if you have Aries rising there in your first house, that means that this Scorpio moon and Mars is going to fall in your 8th house. The 8th house is the house of other people's deep emotional stuff, so other people's kind of baggage. It's a place of ritual where rituals become even more important. So with Aries there, you're looking deeply within to cultivate inner strength, perhaps creating a ritual that impacts other people. Maybe that's bring some friends over to have a fire and burn something in that fire that you want to change. And really you're just looking to release your own old emotional baggage and bonds when you have this in the 8th house.
Yeah, that's great. I just want to add one thought that I was having around this was just, planting a seed to try to learn how to navigate the boundaries between yourself and others. Just on that level as well. So that's great. So if you've got Taurus rising, this Scorpio new moon is going to fall in your 7th house. And, if you've got Scorpio in your 7th house, there's a lot of depth and passion in your close partnerships as it is. So with this new moon falling there, you really want to plant a seed to increase that depth, to, maybe dig into some of the harder questions between you and be really willing to go deep and planting a seed to develop powerful passion would be a way to work with that as well.
Yeah. When I was thinking about that, the only thing I would add to that is like you may need to do that ritual in solitude to just kind of get back in touch with your own individual piece and what you bring to the partnership. And that helps offer the stronger bond. So yeah.
Great.
Nice.
Great.
Great. Okay. Should I go?
Yes, go.
All right. So with Gemini, if you have Gemini rising, then this is going to fall in your 6th house. So this is thinking about planting a seed to identify where you want to develop greater skill and competency. Like where do you want to transform what you're already doing and make it greater, and increase some power there. So I don't know. I'm just thinking about self-improvement. Like what practices do you need to commit to that will provide a source of strength? Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I was thinking too about just, what kind of planting a seed to dig under and find out what's hidden from your view about your own rituals and routines. And, thinking just about adding, fervor and passion to your daily routines. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So Cancer, if you've got Cancer rising, this new moon is, this is yours, isn't it? Oh, sorry. This new moon is going to fall in your 5th house. So the plant that you want to, the seed that you want to plant for this new moon is really a seed of bringing passion and mystery to your creativity and how you give love to others, finding beauty in darkness, really looking in places of destruction for beauty. Nice. What's your extra thought on that one?
I know it's like, that's what I have. So I mean, thinking a lot about that. I just feel like this is the time to really make sure you're doing your creative process. This is a lot of intense energy here and it needs to have an outlet. So it's very, very important that you plant that seed to create space, time and space for your creating.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
Yeah. Leo. So if you have Leo rising, this is going to fall in your 4th house of family. So that's a pretty private place in your chart. 4th house is you're very private. And with Scorpio here, it's going to be not only private, but hidden. So I was thinking a lot about your really getting in touch with those deep ancestral roots. Like this moves you beyond just your immediate family that you're in touch with now. It includes them, but it's go deeper. It's look at what's the wisdom that comes from your family lineage and how can you shine a light to strengthen your emotional foundation through that.
Wow. I really like that, how you said that. That's really good. I was thinking also about just bringing some sort of transformation to your home itself.
That's great.
Knock down a wall in your house, and thinking about that as a metaphor, in a metaphorical way of knocking down some wall in your family that separates people that nobody has addressed in the past, possibly. Okay. Nice. So going on to Virgo rising, we've got the Scorpio new moon is falling in your 3rd house. And this brings up levels of intensity and power in your communications. Possibly siblings can be really involved in this. So, maybe there's a deep, intense conversation with siblings that really has to occur to get to necessary levels of healing. What's your additional thoughts on that one, Jennie?
Oh, I think that was great. My only, let's see, I just add this idea of, I don't know, with a 3rd house emphasis, sometimes there's a tendency for the mind to go broad. And I was just going to say, let it go deep on this one. Like let there be more depth and just recognize that the way you kind of navigate your environment really requires intensity and profound honesty on that path. So that was what I thought.
That's awesome. All right.
Libra.
Next for you.
Okay. So Libra is, I always think about the 2nd house, which is where the Scorpio new moon is going to fall. I can't help it. I always think about 2nd house as originally your sort of self-worth. I mean, it ties in with your resources, it ties in with money, it ties in your finances, but your greatest resource is the way you're able to love yourself. And that's how you really have strong self-reliance, is that you value yourself. So that's what I was thinking about, the deep well of inner resources that lie within you. So tap that, shine a light on it, tap it.
That's awesome. I love how you said that. I talked a little bit about, just facing issues of power and intensity in your use of money, and using your resources as a way of facing hidden intensity.
Nice.
It's interesting. Okay, I'll go on. I had some thoughts, but they came and went. So for Scorpio rising, if you've got Scorpio rising, this is going to fall right in your first house. This is a very personal placement. You're going to want to really think about bringing the most powerful side of your personality into your self-expression. You really want to allow others to see the intensity that you might try to keep hidden, but you want to wear that power of your personality on your sleeve, learn how to work with allowing people to see that power.
Yeah, that's great. I was thinking, if you have Scorpio rising, and this is what's showing up right now, it's like you emanate a deep and indescribable gravitas. You just emanate it, and it can really inspire others towards bravery and I don't know, contending with their intensity. The pitfall here is kind of being really defensive. You could potentially be pretty defensive as Scorpio here. So it's like, shine a light on that, step back out of that tendency for defensiveness, and don't get defensive.
Right. Okay. That's awesome.
Sagittarius. So if you have Sagittarius rising, then this is falling in your 12th house. And this is just about recognizing your extraordinary capacity for compassion for the suffering of others. I mean, that's really what your gift is with Sagittarius rising. So, and sometimes that means you have to go on a shamanic journey to revitalize that. Like, you're going to have to take time out from society and go on a retreat, or, whatever it is that helps you and where you find solitude.
That's awesome. I wrote, don't turn your eyes away. Begin a healing journey to support understanding that depth of your unconscious, and don't turn your eyes away. You've got to really look deep. Okay, so with Capricorn rising, this new moon's going to fall in your 11th house, and you're going to really want to think about, the 11th house is where we receive love from community. We want to think here about really finding that deep, powerful community that is going to help you really work with creating change. The 11th house is the community, the humanitarian community. So yeah, planting a seed to find a community that's going to help you do some real transformative work.
Hell yeah, that's great. I was thinking about a friend I know with Capricorn rising. Yes, but yeah, I had written something very similar, just about the web of allies you need to create for progress. And then also understanding that you are just one strand in the web. So that kind of ties in with the spider imagery here. And feeling the strength of the other strands that are enabling you to do the work. So
that's great.
Cool. We're on the same page of that one. Awesome. So with Aquarius rising, this means this powerful Scorpio focus is falling in your 10th house. So this is an opportunity to plant a seed regarding your power, and that you show through your vocation, and that you can trust that you have the depth and sense of strategy to move the needle forwards, basically, and maintaining a profound sense of integrity at your workplace.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the only thing
I would add to that is, it's a time to really look at what your vocation is, where you're spending your out in the world time, and how you're spending it. And if you are not, if passion and transformation and real intensity is not inherent in your career, you need to begin to find a new path forward with that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of
Plant, or, yeah, start a resume, write a new resume. You got to get really deep on that level. So then with Pisces rising, this new moon is going to fall in your 9th house. And you're going to really, the 9th house is about where we expand our awareness of others, of not individual others, but cultures and philosophies, religion. So you really want to plant a metaphorical seed here to really understand what is at the core and depth of your own philosophies and your own understanding of the greater world.
Nice.
It can have something to do with education or religion or cultures, but something in that, maybe you're planning a really transformative exploration through travel or study.
Yeah. Nice. My only addition to that is just, it goes right along with it, but just being willing to travel into subterranean territory to get the knowledge you need. So that was
if it's going to relate to travel, if you're planning a trip and you happen to have Pisces rising, you're not going to be planning a trip to go sit on a beach somewhere and drink a pina colada. This travel has to be about something that is really profoundly important to your own personal growth and understanding of the world, not just relaxation. Okay.
Makes sense. So I'm going to stop sharing that.
Okay. And I think that covers everything we needed to cover. Is there anything else you want to talk about here, Jennie?
No, I think we covered it. It was quite the intense topic today.
Ooh, Scorpio. Gotta love Scorpio. Right. For sure. Okay, so just to wrap up and say it, you can find Jennie at hiddenpathastrology.com. You can find me at astrolore.org. And we're both available for teaching astrology, natal astrology, and consultations. And reach out if you have any questions or comments or anything else. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.